Good morning. I'm Connie Lucas, and I'm a member here at Unity. I want to welcome you to Unity of the Hill Country, where we offer a positive path for spiritual living. If you would join me in prayer this morning. We give thanks for this beautiful day full of possibilities. We feel God's presence and power in us and all around us. We are truly blessed. Feeling wholeness, we extend this blessing to everyone. We bless all people, regardless what they believe or whom they love. We know there are many paths to God, many names for God, but only one God. And God is expressing through all creation. We come together this morning to experience and express the Christ Spirit that dwells within each of us. And so it is. Amen. Would you please stand as you are able to join in our version of Oh, What a Beautiful Morning? If you are joining us on Facebook from home, we would like to take a moment, to welcome and connect in consciousness. Please feel free to comment and introduce yourself. This is our time to be together and share in love. And feel free to post and to tweet about Unity of the Hill Country, but please silence your phone so it doesn't disturb our gathering. Unity is a global, inclusive, and spiritual community. We offer practical, uplifting resources to help people of all faiths apply positive spiritual principles. Unity offers practical teachings to help people live healthy, prosperous, and meaningful lives. And now, if you'll join me in affirming our statement, our mission and vision statements. to live consciously, celebrating the divine potential in all. And our statement of faith: there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. And our daily word keeps our unity movement connected today worldwide since 1924. And this week's reader is Jack Porter. Jack?
Thank you. I'm filling in today for our daily word reader who is not here today. Oh, Celebration Sunday. Yeah. Well, it's Celebration Sunday today. So we celebrate anniversaries, birthdays, and any blessings or prayer that have been answered. So, does anybody have a birthday today?
I have an anniversary this month.
Okay,
34 wonderful years.
thank you. Brad, do you have?
My grandmother, Wilma, is turning 90 years old today.
Very good. And I am celebrating an anniversary on the 27th, 56 years. And Jane, she's at home right now. Okay, is there any prayers answered that you'd like to share, or blessings? Yes, Connie.
I didn't have to evacuate on Wednesday. And believe me, I had a bag packed to go now. And I'm so grateful for the volunteer firemen who came and said, don't evacuate.
Okay, just for your background, she had a red alert. Get ready to evacuate because there's a fire somewhere in that area. 3/4 of a mile down, and they were getting ready to evacuate everybody, but the wind changed and it went the other direction, and so she thanks the volunteer firemen for helping out. Yes.
This is not a prayer answered, but it's asking a prayer from Joyce Spence, who is having surgery next week.
She's having on Tuesday a total knee replacement. Okay. We are going to celebrate at the end of the service with some cupcakes. Oh, and and I brought some donuts for anybody that wants those. So let's bless our people that have anniversaries, birthdays, and blessings. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we hold the Christ in you. All right. All right, now the daily word. We join millions of daily word readers around the world to receive this message. The Christ candle is lit to represent the divine nature in all of us. All right. Will you repeat the at least one time today, this morning, the affirmation, which is releasing the past, and I make room for the future. Okay. The daily word is release. My life experiences have provided me with many gifts, from joyous to painful. I have taken something from each other. I have taken something from each one, a nugget of wisdom, understanding, solace, that has helped me evolve into a person I am today. I am always growing, always changing. With the gratitude, I receive the blessings while letting the painful memories go. I have no room for regret and do not dwell on things that I have no power to change. As I release unwanted thoughts and unpleasant memories, I free myself to enjoy new experiences and create a beautiful, lasting memories. With an uncluttered mind and an unburdened heart, I embrace the present moment and eagerly create my bright, beautiful future. In Ecclesiastes Ecclesiastes, okay, 3 through 9. This is my Aggie talk coming out right now. A time to seek, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to throw away. So let's repeat our statement for the day. Release the past, I make room for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Today we have some special music. Mandy Russell. Take it away, Mandy.
I'm working on forgiveness, working really hard, 'cause I've noticed how it lightens up my spirit and my heart. But there's still one soul who I beat up on, shame and blame and heap the crud on. What an awful price that little soul has paid. So face to face and heart to heart, I think it's time to say, I forgive you. You've done the best you could. I forgive you. I release you from the shoulds. I accept you as that perfect child of God you're meant to be. I forgive you. I wonder why it's easier forgiving someone else. Mothers, fathers, children, anybody but myself. Can I learn to love myself completely? The good, the bad, the cool, the geeky. Well, the pieces won't be falling into place till I can look with love upon this face. I forgive you. You've done the best you could. I forgive you. I release you from the shoulds. I accept you as that perfect child of God you're meant to be. I forgive you. When I slip into those unforgiving habits from the past, I promise that I'll see you clearly in this looking glass. I forgive you. You've done the best you could. I forgive you. I release you from the shoulds. I accept you as that perfect child of God you're meant to be. I forgive you. I forgive you. Me.
And I'm expected to go on after that. The Unity movement started in 1889 with answered prayer, a healing of a fatal illness. We are honored to pray with you. Place a prayer request in our lobby prayer chest. This is what they look like, and they're in the seat pockets in front of you. And if an usher will now bring our prayer chests forward as we prepare for our meditation. And now if you'll join us in our meditation song for the month, Here I Am, Lord. The words are on the screen and you may sing along as you settle into meditation. Please join us after our meditation in our Alleluia song.
By the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people's cry, all who dwell in dark within, my hand will save. I will make the stars of night, I will make the darkness bright, who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. We have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. By the Lord of snow and rain, I have borne my people's pain. I have wept for love of them, they turn away. I will melt their hearts of stone, give them hearts for love alone. I will speak my word to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of wind and flame, I will tend the poor and lame. I will set a feast for them. My hand will save. Unfed I will provide, till their hearts be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart.
If you haven't already, just take a nice deep breath and relax. Allow any anxiety to just flow out your fingertips and toes. Draw your focus from your head to your heart, and from your heart to the very center of your torso, the gateway of Chi, the radiating energy outward to every cell in our bodies. Bring your attention to your feet and feel the groundedness as if you had roots going down to the ground. Notice your hands. Is your small finger chilly or is it warm? And feel the chair against your back, holding your weight. And now let any illusion of separation between ourselves and God just melt away. we are open and receptive to God's living Spirit of truth. Let us see Unity of the Hill Country thriving in consciousness, people, and revenues. The God presence as Unity of the Hill Country is a divine magnet, attracting anyone who can benefit from who we are and what we are about. Attracting health, prosperity, love, joy, and inner peace to Unity of the Hill Country and all who join us here. Anytime we meditate or pray in unity, we take a moment to pray for others. So bring to mind any individuals or groups you'd like to pray for now. We include all of the prayer requests that have been placed in our prayer box or that we've received by email. And we see and know that the divine perfection, the divine substance, the divine potential is in and expressing through each of these prayer requests as wholeness, as their highest good. And I encourage you to take the words I'm about to speak as your own prayer words this morning. To release and to let go. Why can it be so challenging to do that with some things? Why do I insist on there being a right way and a wrong way? Why in my mind do I think that other people need to behave the way I think they should behave? If we recognize that the game of life is like a symphony orchestra, the trumpets sound different than the tubas. The drums sound different than the cymbals. The oboes sound different than the woodwinds. Yet all of the various sounds, all of the various voices, all of the various actions come together in one grand symphony. So I set the intention for harmony and love to be expressing in this world, and I start by expressing it myself. As I prepare for 2 minutes of silence, I embrace and express the divine idea of forgiveness in the silence. I am grateful for the awareness that I can be a conduit of love and harmony. And as I move through this coming week, I hold in the forefront of my mind that forgiveness is in my spiritual DNA. That when a situation arises that causes me discomfort or displeasure, I shift and ask within, show me the good in this. I can recall something without reliving it. And I allow the flow of vital energy and love. And for my ever-growing awareness of the omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence of God, I open my heart chakra and pour forth gratitude. I pray these things in the name, the nature, and the power that we know as Jesus Christ. And I release this prayer knowing perfect results are unfolding. And so it is. As we draw our focus back to the sanctuary, please join us in this chant. Before I launch into the Sunday lesson, just had a couple of things I wanted to share with you. One, of course, is for those of you, especially listening online, our website has a donate button on it, and you can actually set up a recurring offering of by the week, by the month, by the year, that sort of thing. It kind of helps us in budgeting as we move forward into the fall months. The Worldwide Headquarters comes out with little booklets a few times a year. The latest one is out there. It's called Strength, Courage, and Comfort for Difficult Times. So I think we got about 20 copies. So if that speaks to you, by all means, grab one. And you'll also notice, there in our little lounge area, there's that tree of booklets that Unity has put out, including special booklets for LGBTQ plus and grief and all of these other things that if you find something out there that might be of use to you or of use to others, please take them. That's great. Third is a bit more personal. One thing that I have admired about this community since I was interviewing for it back in March is the resiliency. Carla's got a health challenge, and I'd like you to kind of hold Carla in your prayers, seeing her embracing the divine idea of perfect health. She, for the last year or so, her stamina and energy has just been down, and it's been puzzling to both of us. But what Carla discovered was that one of her heart valves isn't quite closing properly. So She's probably going to need surgery for that, but yeah, if you'll hold us in your prayers, and by all means, hold us in your arms. We could use a hug or two. So, but yeah, so that's coming up. We'll keep you posted as that unfolds, since we're not quite, don't have all of the details yet. But that's what's going on with us. All right. So let's do a virtual hug. Good morning. Got a story from Rabbi David A. Nelson. He talks about how there were these brothers that were in what appeared to be eternal conflict. You know, it didn't seem like they could get along on anything. And he talked them into coming in, and he had a nice counseling session with them for about an hour, just talking about common ground, and is there some way that they could just kind of bury the hatchet, so to speak, without burying it in each other's heads. And it seemed like they had a breakthrough, and everything was good. So at the end, you know, the rabbi encouraged the two of them to, you know, give each other a hug, sort of thing, and they just kind of reluctantly gave each other a hug. And as they turned to leave, the rabbi said, "Now, one more thing. I want you to state a wish or intention for each other." And one brother looked and stroked his chin, and he said, "I wish for you what you wish for me." And then the other brother says, "See, there he goes again." It's, you know, it's so easy to say, "Oh, forgive and release," but, you know, when we know that there's a right way to do things, we tend to forget that while there is physical world justice, there's also a divine justice as well. Nothing goes unnoticed by spirit. And a great test of knowing whether or not you've truly forgiven someone rather than putting a Band-Aid on a resentment is, can I recall it without reliving it? You know, can I recall it without reliving it? It's like, oh, yeah, that happened to me. And then we have the realization of like, oh, now I see the blessing in it. You know, it's like I mentioned in the meditation, and I've mentioned before, okay, something just knocks us for a loop. If we can just stop and say, okay, God, show me the goodness. And then it comes to us. What I have noticed, though, is a lot of times it doesn't come in a flash. We find ourselves forgiving with grit teeth. As a lot of you know, Carla and I traveled during the 90s doing seminars, on the spiritual principles of prosperity. We visited here at Kerrville 30 years ago. And as we traveled around, one of our mentors had encouraged us to use a love offering model. Okay, we're not going to charge a fee, and usually we would negotiate at the time with the congregation, the minister, whoever handled workshops. And we had two basic models. One was, if you'll pay our expenses, let's split the offering 50-50. If we pay our own expenses, we split it 90-10, with Carla and I getting 90%. And that went very well, except for this one day. We came in and we did the workshop, prosperity workshop, on a Saturday. And there was a big event going on. Not many people showed up. Only 5 people showed up. I say only. It didn't really bother me that much. But during the, we'd take a break about halfway through. And during this recess, this guy came up to me and he says, "I can't believe the two of you are doing this with just 5 people here." And I said, "Well, I know Carla and I, we made the pledge that we will serve. We share what we know about spirituality. And, one of the more pragmatic aspects of spirituality is understanding how we can bring abundance into our lives. And, of course, the other one is healing, that's so popular." And he just kind of marveled at that. So Carla and I completed, this 3-hour seminar, and then the offering was received, and as we sat down with the person from the congregation who was counting the offering enough. She just was amazed, and she showed me this check from that gentleman for $5,000. And we had agreed to an 80-10 split with this congregation. And, I was kind of like, thank you, God, sort of a thing. So she wrote us a check for 90% of the total. I think the total, turned out to be about 5,400 and something, whatever. But we move on to the next congregation that we're going to be doing the Sunday morning with. And I get a call near the end of the day from this woman who is the office manager saying, oh, we made a mistake. Instead, we're going to give you 50% of the offering. And I was just kind of stunned. And I thought to myself, well, no problem. I'll talk with the minister, when I get a chance. So we went ahead and did the next day. And later that day, I get a call from the minister. And the minister's kind of like, no. I mean, if it's that much, it should be 50-50. And I said, yes, but you didn't pay our expenses. And she did not have an answer for that. I was not happy, especially with the Unity minister. And then I discovered that the woman who's the office manager is actually the partner of the minister. Because I thought first I was like, well, she just doesn't know any better. I'll talk to the minister. And then the minister kind of gave this implied threat of, talking to other ministers in the area and all, so I just kind of let it go. Not really. For some time, I just, would have this thing, and occasionally I remember going back to Unity Village at one point and talking to one of the guys who was the teacher on the staff at the time, and I said, well, what do you think of this? I didn't mention any names. He goes, that sucks. He goes, a deal is a deal. Well, okay. So the years went by, I was doing forgiveness through grit teeth. And then suddenly I guess it was 2011, I went to this week-long seminar when I was just in bad shape. And by that I mean, it was when I hadn't fully discovered that I was having clinical depression. But I went to this seminar in Sacramento, and lo and behold, who's there? The minister. And I was not really feeling up to a confrontation, but then I discovered that she had paid for my tuition. And that this was one of her things, was that if there's a Unity minister who comes to these seminars, she'll pay their tuition because she wants everybody to know, about this particular workshop that was being held back then in Sacramento. And then just recently, I was, believe it or not, I was auditioning and interviewing with churches about becoming to be their minister. And sure enough, one of the congregations that was looking for a minister out in California, which is the congregation this woman had been at, wanted me to zoom in and do a Sunday service. So I did that. And then they had a discussion afterwards, like we do here. We just have some fellowship and some conversation. And guess who's on the Zoom call? And she's just praising, the job that I did, and it's wonderful, and I thanked her so much, and I said, I know last time I saw you was 2011, and I was not in particularly good shape. But what I noticed was I was reliving it I was recalling it without reliving it. It's like it was okay. And as I look back, at that time, especially when that happened, when we got the $5,000 offering check, and it turns out about $2,000 of it was called back to the congregation. Carla and I needed that. We really needed to recognize that we had stepped out in faith. I mean, here we were traveling around and just being open and receptive to God's living Spirit of truth, and knowing that the money was going to come from somewhere. I wish I could say that I've mastered forgiveness so that anytime someone gets in my face, I can just say, bless you, just bless you. But like you, I'm just giving it my best on any given moment. Wait, Mandy, what musical is that? Was that song from?
It's not from a musical. It's by Karen Taylor Good. It's one of our empowered.
Yeah, right. Well, I hadn't put this in the script, but Karen Taylor Good, yeah, Carla and I heard her back in the early 1990s when we were first learning Unity's prosperity principles. You know, one of the principles is you give, 10% of your gross to wherever you see God working, wherever you want to see something thrive and grow. And so we were really touched, by Karen Taylor. She visited Unity in Chicago, so we tithed her. We get a call about a week later, and she said, I just recently learned all of the principles of prosperity and unity, and finally, with some trepidation, sent out my first tithe, and the next day in the mail, your tithe check came to me. So yeah, we've had a connection with Karen Taylor Good. Well, that's great. Okay, I love her music. Okay, well, one of the healthiest things that you or I can do is to forgive. This isn't about letting the other person know that you forgave them. This is about letting that poison out of your consciousness because it constricts the flow of the divine energies. In the Gospel of Mark, 12th chapter, Jesus is challenged by one of the Pharisees. Now, the Pharisees were kind of like the fundamentalists of the Jewish community at that time. They knew the right way and the wrong way to do things. Good thing over these last 2,000 years we've learned from those mistakes and we don't have those kinds of people anymore. So one of the Pharisees figures, okay, here's this Jesus of Nazareth. He's doing a question and answer session. I'm going to see if I can trip him up and ask him which of the 10 commandments is the greatest. So in the 28th verse, the scribe asks, which commandment is greatest of them all? Jesus answered, the first is this, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. And the second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So suddenly, he didn't go back to the 10 commandments, and that's a Sunday lesson in and of itself. But it's interesting because he says, at the very beginning, the Lord is one. Remember that they were amongst people of other spiritual traditions who felt like there were a multitude of gods. And of course, from our Western tradition, we know Greek gods. There are all of these gods. So he said, no, it's one presence. It just has many faces. But the other thing that some people don't catch is at the end, he says, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Well, what if you loathe yourself? And that is one of those incredible dynamics that we have. It's that if I'm not feeling good about myself, I have no problem projecting it onto someone else. It's like, well, kind of like the story of the two brothers. Here he goes again. It's like you're assuming, that. Yeah. Carla will share that when we met back in 1986. She had gotten to the point in her life where she realized she was having so many problems with men because she knew all men were jerks. And then she kind of had this breakthrough that, I could live the rest of my life without a man in my life. But I'm content with who I am and I'm ready to move forward. And who should walk into her life but the doofus in chief? And I was open and receptive to perhaps changing my... Okay, I'm going to take a risk with this one. But I often tell people when I met Carla, I had an M.A., a Master of Assholery. It's like, but Carla, just kind of kept showing me the mirror and holding my feet to the fire, and it's kind of, oh, okay. But then the fun part was once I had my breakthrough and was truly expressing who I truly was, I turned the tables on her. So Carla had to kind of deal with some of her shadow stuff as well. So if we love ourselves, then we can truly express love to our neighbors. I do notice that it's so easy for me to see that Jesus Christ's presence in you, but I have difficulty seeing it in me. So perhaps the reason that we are here is to bring out the best in each other. If when I'm going to be sitting in the waiting room with Carla maybe having surgery for a heart valve, I would have a difficulty recognizing the Christ in me, but one of you can see the Christ in me, can hold the high watch. We're not here to tear each other down, but to build each other up. And have you ever noticed that anger, hate, confusion is contagious? I heard about this story recently and looked it up, and it is true. In May of 1894, there was a baseball game. The Baltimore Orioles went to Boston to play a baseball team that doesn't exist anymore, the Boston Bean Eaters. And during the game, one player from each of the teams got into a fight on the field. And if you've ever seen something like that, suddenly the whole dugout empties, and they're all kind of, so they're all brawling, and then suddenly there's a brawl in the stands. And then suddenly there's a fire in the stands, and people are evacuating, and a 24-hour wind blows this fire into the neighborhood. 200 buildings, either got scorched or destroyed. And it's like, wow, and we've seen this, we've seen this in our world too, where some person who just feels inadequate projects their crap onto someone else or a group of people or a larger neighborhood or community. So it's important for us to be able to step forward and say, no, I know the truth about you. And if indeed the person committed a crime, there might be some physical justice, but the important thing is, can I bring out the best in that person just by seeing the best in that person and not letting them get away with having an MA? The book of Proverbs tells us to watch our anger and stop conflict before it turns into a flood of anger inside of us. In the Gospel of Matthew, 8th chapter, 21st verse, the disciple Peter comes to Jesus and says, Lord, if someone sins against me, how often shall I forgive? As many as 7 times? And Jesus responded, not 7 times, but I tell you 70 times 7. Now, there might be some people who will take that literally and do a prayer of forgiveness or release for 490 times. But we need to understand the symbolism again. First we know that the character of Jesus Christ in our Bible represents that spiritual truth of who we are, our connection to something higher than ourselves. And then Peter represents faith. So if our faith comes to us and says, I can't seem to figure out how to forgive this person, the number 7 means you have completed it here in this physical world. And then when you add 0 to it, it emphasizes the importance of it and tells you that you just need to do it as long as it takes. Like me, Unity Minister. It may have taken 20 years for me to get to the point where I could, hey, yeah, I can relive, I can recall that without reliving it anymore. But, so it's just a matter of show me the good in this. Now, he goes on from there and says, for this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents brought to the king. And the slave could not pay. The king ordered that he be sold into slavery together with his wife and children, and to seize all of his possessions to auction. and payment to be made. The slave dropped to his knees before the king, saying, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything." And out of pity for him, the king released him and forgave him all of his debt. But that same slave went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. He seized the other by the throat and said, "Pay me what you owe me." The fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, "Have patience with me, and I will pay you." But he refused, and he went and threw him into prison until he would pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their king all that had taken place. Then this king summoned to him the slave and said, "You wicked slave, I forgave you all of that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have had mercy on your fellow slave as I had mercy on you?" And in anger, the king handed him over to the torturer and put him in prison until his entire debt was paid. Jesus concluded, "If you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart, you shall be like this slave." When we notice back in the biblical stories, they talk about the heart. Of course, here's King David, "Give me an understanding heart." What it means is the whole mind. Can you truly forgive? But here again, this was a story Jesus said to give us a point, and that is that you don't have to worry about forgiving you. It's a done deal. What's important is for us to be able to forgive other people. Yeah, if it takes 20 years, fine. But, I'm finding nowadays it doesn't take 20 years anymore. Maybe 20 months or 20 minutes. But, yeah, it's a lot easier. Because when it comes to debtor's prison, we find out that the prison guard is really within us. It's up to us to cut ourselves some slack, to say, "I forgive you, me." If indeed we are playing a game of life, the winner of life is always the person who forgives and loves much. I got a great story from one of my homeboys in Illinois, Abraham Lincoln. As you know, he was a lawyer, country lawyer, before he got elevated to president through an amazing set of circumstances. But as an attorney, this guy came to him, and he's like, "There's this guy who owes me $2.50. Now, in today's dollars, that would be $100. I want to sue him." And Lincoln tries to kind of talk him through this and all that, but he could see that the resentment and the anger, and that if Lincoln didn't take the case, he'd go to another lawyer. So he said, "Okay, fine, because my fee is $10, which is $400 in today's dollars, so 4 times the amount," but he still wanted to sue this guy. So Lincoln collects his fee of $400, and he goes to the other guy and says, "Here's the situation." And the guy's like, "Oh, I want to pay him. I just can't right now. I don't have the money." And Lincoln hands him $100 and says, "Okay, well, the fact that you fessed up to it and stuff, why don't you go pay him the $100? And sure enough, he goes and pays the guy $100. And the guy is just so happy. You finally paid your debt. But can we find some way here in 2022 to be like Abraham Lincoln? Help people find that common ground? Okay, 2 weeks takeaways. The bulletin insert has them on. Number 1, forgiveness is in our spiritual DNA. Remember that 70 times 7 means, hey, as long as it takes to complete. Number 3 is when the brown organic refuse hits the rotary oscillator, to say, show me the good in this. Number 4 is recall the situation without reliving it. And then allow that flow of vitality and love to just flow through us. When we are in anger, when we are in resentment, we choke off that flow. Okay, we'll close with a 3-minute video from Steve Hartman of the CBS Evening News.
This neighborhood in Summerville, South Carolina is predominantly black. And no one cared when Annie Cadell moved in 7 years ago.
I love the house.
At least, according to her neighbor, Juanita Edwards. No one cared at first.
When she came here, she seemed to be very nice.
Until?
A little while later, she started putting up Confederate flags. Every morning when I would walk out to get my newspaper, that's the first thing you see. My husband stopped going to get the newspaper in the morning.
And so began a very public fight. When the neighbors protested in front of her house, Annie invited counter-protesters to stand in her yard. When the neighbors put up walls on both sides of her property to block the view, Annie put up a taller flagpole. Her brazenness made international news.
Once you get my hackles raised, I don't back down. I don't make no apologies.
Eventually, the war settled into a stalemate of sorts. There were no more marches, no bigger walls, no taller flagpoles. Just a quiet bitterness on both sides. Until just recently, when Annie had a change of heart, quite literally.
When you have a heart attack and you're being told you're not going to live very long, you're facing your mortality. I needed to clean up the messes that I made by being so stubborn. And I have asked anyone with an earshot to forgive me.
She started with one of her fiercest critics, director of the local community resource center, Lewis Smith.
And she said, I have decided to take down the flag. I said, huh? I couldn't believe it. I was in disbelief. I went and hugged her. Somehow God touched her heart.
Not long after, she presented him with the flag.
And Miss Annie, we thank you.
Today, a South Carolina flag flies in its place, and Annie is hopeful the walls will be the next to go. She's already getting waves from the neighbors and enjoying her new perspective on the world.
If all species of birds can get along, why can't we?
Can we get people to be less stubborn without the heart attack part?
That would be lovely, but sometimes it takes a serious action to happen to you before you see your actions on others.
Annie says before, she only saw the Confederate flag through her eyes as a way to honor relatives who fought for the South. But now, she says, she cares more about her living neighbors than her dead relatives. You don't feel like you're dishonoring them now?
No, I'm not. I think I've done more honor for them now than I've done in my whole life.
And with that, our divided country inches a little closer together. Steve Hartman, on the road in Somerville, South Carolina.
And remember, tomorrow it's 3 months until the election. Are you registered to vote? The closing Bible verse from the Gospel of Mark, 12th chapter, 28th verse. One of the scribes asked Jesus, which commandment is the greatest of all? Jesus answered, the first is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. And the second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. And may you always be open to God's guidance and grace.
It's said in my own words, so that's what I said. Good job, good job. Our congregational song this week is I Release. And if you will join in singing this, the words are up here, and the choir's going to help us out too.
No
If this is your first time here at Unity, we're glad you are here, and we hope you're finding a place of like-minded people and a place to belong. We teach spiritual tools that can help you no matter what's going on in your life. Generosity is important to us, and we donate $5 to a local charity of your choice. Just write your email on the card in our welcome packet and leave it at the office. We don't want to put you on the spot, but raise your hand if you're new this morning, and someone will bring you a packet, or you can pick one up on the way out. Okay. We now have an opportunity to support our spiritual cooperative. If you would like to donate by credit card, you can go to our website, unityhillcountry.org, and click on the donate button. And please set up an automatic weekly or monthly contribution. If you would prefer to mail checks to us, please mail them to Unity of the Hill Country, 1016 Jefferson Street, Kerrville, Texas, 78028. And we thank you in advance for your generosity. If you will take your blessing, or take your tithe in your hand now, we will offer a blessing. Please say this together with me. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I send it forth with my blessings and my love. Wrong pocket. We open our hearts in gratitude for these freely given donations, and we send these gifts forward through our congregation and into our world, blessing all that it affects. We have a few announcements. We always have a few announcements. The Power versus Force book study meets the first and third Mondays at 2 p.m., and it will resume on Monday, the 15th of August. Our hearing loop is going to be installed on Wednesday. Yay! Hooray! And that little thing that was over there in the corner, checking with your audiologist, don't forget to do that, because we don't want anybody to say, hey, it doesn't work, because it will. Okay, sorry about that. Salvation Army is looking for volunteers for this event, or just bring kids. It's an opportunity to help our community by sponsoring a backpack full of school supplies for less fortunate families. And I think it's next weekend. Yeah, next Saturday. The 13th, yes, the 13th. And, drum roll. No. Well, drum roll. Anyway, we here at Unity of the Hill Country always need volunteers, ushers, hosts, daily word readers, people to stock the back of the chairs. Please, please be a part of this. It means so much to all of us. Thank you. And now if you'll stand and move towards the aisle, we'll join hands and do our peace song and our prayer for protection. There's cake.